welcome to Behind the Build. I'm your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and today I have with me, I call her, I think others do too, a trailblazer in Canadian architecture for women. I have Pat Hanson with me today from gh3. Pat, thanks for joining.
Very happy to be here. Sort of.
I like the honesty. Well, it's true. Like when we initially spoke, you weren't sure whether or not it was something you wanted to do or not. It's a different medium, right?
Very.
But the reality is that, at least from what we've discussed, is it's a conversation, and I have a really nice time dealing with a lot of people, and I think that there's a lot of people that will hear this and be really interested in learning about you.
Okay. You say so. No, yes, I'm looking forward to the conversation. And the conversation's good. It's just, recording it is always the...
Yeah, but so, listen to it later on.
Yeah, for sure.
So a few things. For those of you that are not familiar with Pat, I did a quick thing on GPT asking GPT about Pat, and among many awards that she and her practice have received, she is heavily involved in a number of different groups here in Toronto. Beat, Waterfront. One of the nice awards they've received a few times, I believe, is the Governor General's Award. And while we don't always like to lay claim to the accolades, it's indicative of a very fruitful and ambitious career.
Quick pause before we get really rolling here. You'll hear this throughout today's conversation with Pat, that when work matters, details and service matter. And later on, Pat and I talk about how great projects come from clarity, a couple of key details done perfectly, and people who actually show up and follow through. And that's exactly why we partner with Kaplan's Appliances. For us, it's not just about picking a range or a fridge, it's about everything around it. They care about the measurements, they care about the millwork, they care about the functionality, they care about the experience, and they coordinate with our team and make the install and the aftercare feel easy instead of stressful. When something needs attention, they pick up the phone and solve it. It's the same ethics you'll hear from Pat today. Do the simple things exceptionally well and do them consistently. We've been working with Kaplan's for 3 decades because our clients notice the difference when the service is this steady and the advice is this practical. If you're planning a kitchen or full home, reno, new build, start with people who treat the details like they matter. And that's Kaplan's Appliances. All right. If you want to learn more, well, you can email me. It's Jonathan, JONATHAN, @waldenhomes.ca. For now, let's go back to Pat. And in a minute, you'll hear us get into why that kind of follow-through is everything.
So start with that, and I would then say, how did you get there? Like, what? I ask everyone the same question. From an early age, were you interested in arts? Were you interested in maths and sciences? Did you sketch? What did that look like and where did it start? Where did you grow up?
I actually, first several years of my life, I lived in a town called Le Jord outside of Regina, Saskatchewan.
Okay.
And it was kind of a Norwegian farming community. So half of my family are Norwegian, half are Italian. But yeah, so that's where I grew up.
Okay.
Sort of just in a small town near many farms. Yeah.
And what were they farming?
Wheat. It was all grain. Yeah, all grain. And then we moved to the city. My father's family, again, Norwegian, lost their land in the Depression, partially because of my father's father having Parkinson's disease, and my father actually had that as well, sort of a high incidence of that disease because it's tied to well water and farming communities. Anyway, so we did not have land. My father worked for a hail insurance company, and then we eventually moved to the big city of Regina, which is about three miles away.
And what was it like going from a farming community to a city?
I was still pretty young, so I think sort of somewhat oblivious. And even when I moved to Regina, it was still, I could get on my bike and ride out into the wheat fields. And of course, those were the days when nobody was worried about children's safety. So I still had a pretty easy life getting out
Yeah.
into the country.
There wasn't a tracker embedded,
No, for sure not. Yeah. Yeah.
wrapped in bubble wrap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so were you actively involved in farming when you were living there, or when you moved to the city? Did you feel the change from that, or do you remember like running through the wheat fields? Like, so,
Yeah, I kind of do. I remember being in the country a lot. I remember even later on sort of going on hunting trips with my father. I definitely remember him coming home and cleaning birds, and we would look at the sort of, insides of birds and their seed sacs, and I remember helping him with cleaning birds and finding a bottle cap in a bird seed cap, like stuff like, yeah. So it was, yeah. I had a kind of a country raised. I was raised sort of in the country, I
Yeah.
guess, in a way. Yeah.
okay. And when they moved to the city, did they were out of farming? What did that look like?
Yeah, I just remember my parents they bought a new house in a suburb in Regina, and it was just a different way of life. I remember my father, trying to improve the soil quality before he planted a lawn, so we planted potatoes in the front yard. It's that kind of life where it's really, I don't know how to explain it, but,
It's
um
hard to let go of what he had before.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a simple life in the suburbs of Regina that were pretty close to the outskirts of Regina, so I've just never really felt that there was a boundary, I think, between the city and the country. Later on, when I got a little bit older and the city grew a bit, but
Right.
yeah.
And so, do you have recollection of what it looked like for you as you were kind of evolving as a youth? Like when you were in junior high school and high school, did you start honing in on the skills that you now have, or did it kind of come later? What did that look like?
I think when I think back about what I was like as a child, and where that's connected me, what that's brought me to is always an interest in, like, always being really comfortable outside, making things outside, growing things outside. I mean, for a long time, I was obsessed with killing insects and making graveyards for them. So that kind of, was, and making, playing in the backyard endlessly with, found, pieces of wood and stuff to make little enclosures. I mean, not dissimilar, I'm sure, from any other child, but
Yeah.
very, I had a lot of freedom, and spent a lot of time making things. And I think I was probably a bit of a dreamer as a kid, sort
Yeah.
of, could occupy myself for hours.
Yeah, just being if you're a kid that was outdoors, then yeah,
Yeah.
being outdoors, you can
Yeah.
always just find yourself, oh,
Yeah.
it's late, I should probably get home.
Yeah. I mean, I was never, a great adventurer, but I would kind of, I mean, I had a lot of freedom actually when I think about it. And yeah, like to make things.
And so when you were in high school, were you starting to take any courses that led you down the path, or did you know that you were going to lead down the path of architecture? Like what changed it? What sparked it?
Well, I think the sort of interest in making things was with me in a very early age. And whatever things I made, like whether it was sort of clay or sewing things, or I was always making things and giving them. I would sort of joke about giving things to my sister or making something and giving it to her. So that was always with me. And I think my mother probably recognized that, I had kind of a creative outlet, or, needed kind of some creative outlet. So I think she enrolled me in a number of art classes even when I was pretty little.
Hmm.
And I also remember kind of taking her life series books on Michelangelo and Da Vinci and stuff and drawing through them and being absolutely fascinated by them. But so a bit of art classes in my early years. I remember and then obviously in high school I took art. I remember having sort of an argument with my art teacher who I was drawing something and she came to sort of correct my perspective or something and started to erase it, and I got very angry with her.
I remember that. Miss Petrucci did that to me.
Did she? Yeah, and then actually I did, because I was actually quite a shy child. I actually said something and the teacher really felt badly about it afterwards, and apologized apologized to me profusely. So, but yeah, no, I was always, kind of a maker, a drawer, all that stuff. And so, and not particularly a good student. I'm a bit of a dreamer, I guess.
That's okay.
Not a good student at all, really. So anyway, so when when grade 12 was finished, I have two sisters and they're older than me and they're both very good, quite good students, quite bright.
Yeah.
So I think my parents were like, what are we going to do with Pat? But anyway, so I did go to university and
Did you know that architecture was something that you could study?
I didn't even know what it was.
Okay.
I had no idea what
Right.
it was. I knew what painting was and drawing was and never really never really think about buildings. And I didn't, I don't think I thought about streets or whether there was one building I liked or a building I didn't like. That's not true. My father was in an old office building in downtown Regina, and I kind of liked that building. But if you asked me then why I liked it, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. So yeah, completely oblivious to it. So when I went to university, I said I wanted to major in art, which was the only thing that I'd actually ever really excelled at.
Right.
I mean, I was a fairly athletic kid, but art was really the only thing that I really had gotten something back from.
Well, what were the athletics? What did you like to do?
Oh, everything.
Okay.
Yeah, just about everything. Running, softball, basketball. And, and I was, fairly athletic,
Yeah.
kind of maybe too small to really be serious, in later in years. But yeah. Yeah, no, I really liked moving my body. That was kind of a big part of it. So I enrolled at university with a BA with a major in art and was only at the university. I went to the University of Regina. So the only real art classes in the first years were history, which I also enjoyed and kind of did well at.
Mm-hmm.
And then many of my friends were moving and decided that they were going to study interior design at the University of Manitoba. So I went with them to sort of see what that was like, thinking that maybe I could go to art school there.
Okay.
And, my parents are, very practical people. So I felt, quite thankful of them that they allowed me to do it and go and study art because, it did not lead to a job, obviously, right? I guess they thought perhaps I'd end up being a school teacher or something like that, right? So anyway, I do remember going to Manitoba, going to Winnipeg, and it was sort of a bigger city than Regina and being kind of, amazed and, sort of somewhat intimidated by Winnipeg. And went to look at the interior design department with my friends and was kind of horrified because it really didn't. Oh, I went to an all-girls school too. I went to a Catholic all-girls school. And so when I went into the interior design department, I saw all these sort of attractive young women all sitting together doing watercolors. And I just was like horrified. I thought, there's just
Been through.
I'll never be able to do this. I can't do this. So, but the art school was next door. So I enrolled, I was accepted. And, it was really, a couple of really great years of my life.
Quick note before we keep going. You'll hear in today's conversation with Pat, the moment things start to click is when many disciplines come together. Drawing, model making, problem solving. So the idea holds up in the real world. That's exactly why the Doors is our go-to window and door partner. They don't just sell a product, they cover the entire spectrum. Vinyl, fiberglass, aluminum woodclad, wood, steel, and even curtain wall, and fully custom exterior doors when the design calls for it. And the follow-through matches the promise. Site measurements, detailed shop drawings, installation, and service, end-to-end, all in-house. We've partnered with the Doors across a range of projects and architecture practices, and the reason is simple. When the details matter, a single accountable team keeps intent intact. Later in the episode, Pat talks about how great work comes from clear drawings and vigilance. That's the same ethics we get from the Doors. Their shop drawings are precise, coordination is proactive, and they show up on site so nothing gets lost between plan and install. One more thing we love, their systems are available locally here in Toronto, and they're now fabricating aluminum locally, which trims delivery times and keeps schedules moving. Breadth of systems, depth of service, local fabrication. This is how you protect design intent and timelines. All right, back to Pat, because in a few minutes, you'll hear us dig into why those drawings and that on-site presence makes all the difference.
And then I had to think about how I was, what I was going to do after art school. And it was a question of, was I going to be an artist? And I think at the time I was 20, maybe 21,
Yeah.
20.
I could do that.
I thought I couldn't actually.
Really?
Yeah, I really thought I couldn't. I thought I really didn't know enough. I hadn't lived long enough. I didn't like what was I making art about. I felt like I was a good draftsman. I could draw. I could actually manipulate art media and stuff. But I felt like I couldn't find a voice. I just plus I didn't know what that would look like in terms of
It's too broad.
looking after myself and all
Right.
that. Right.
Okay.
So there was an architecture school next to the interior design school, which I obviously paid a little bit of attention to throughout my art school. So there was the fine arts school and the architecture school had both interior design in it and architecture and environmental studies. And I don't know, I guess I think it was maybe one of my sort of major boyfriends that, yeah, was in architecture and told me that there was a qualifying year and said, you should do it. You could do the qualifying year and then you could get into architecture.
Hmm.
And I thought, I just don't think that's possible. I mean, I really didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I'd be smart enough. Yeah, I was just super intimidated, but I tried, and I think it's largely because he couldn't understand why I thought I couldn't do it. I mean, so I felt very supported.
Right.
So I went, and I was accepted,
Were you
and
shocked?
I was kind of shocked. Yeah, super shocked.
Did you
Yeah.
have to have a portfolio?
I think, yeah, portfolio,
Okay.
and obviously decent marks, and I guess I had okay marks because I was in art school. But I mean, if they'd looked at my high school marks, they would have said, like, "Are you kidding?"
Clearly, they didn't care.
So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm first year, I mean, in this qualifying year, and honestly, I could kinda do everything. Was so much fun. Like, I understood everything. I could, you know, build models. I could kinda I could understand the problem. I could develop the design. I had kind of had drawing skills. Yeah, it was yeah.
Like a culmination of everything that you were really interested in.
Yeah, it was,
It came together.
it all just came together. It really came together in that year, which was, remarkable. I was super happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is now what year of school that you had
So this would be
changed from the general from the
yeah, so I would be going into that would have been so I was at university for about 8 years, so that would have been year 5, and then I did 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, so that was the 5th year that I'd been at university.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you got into that, and I mean, I have to imagine that now that you've kind of found your mark,
Mhm.
you're starting to what you had previously in terms of the dreamer
Yeah.
all of a sudden starts to hone in, right?
Yeah, yeah, I start to be,
More dialed and focused.
yeah, definitely more dialed and focused for sure, like, able to kinda manage my time. Yeah, more analytical, be able to I mean, big part of architecture school is being able to, have students have to present.
Yes.
They work first of all, you work with your studio professor, you have to be able to explain what you're doing and what you're thinking, and, all of that kind of really disciplined me. I was when we used to call it a jury when you did your final presentations on a project, and I would be nervous beyond belief, like, just shaking like a leaf.
Well, what I've come to realize
Yeah,
after interviewing quite a number of people
yeah,
is that pretty much everyone that's in architecture
mhm.
is an introvert.
Oh, yeah?
There are very few people I've met that are like full on extroverts.
Is that right, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And so
Yeah,
this whole dialogue is the only reason why this really works that we're
Yeah.
right now is because it's the two of us talking, sitting
Yeah.
across from each other.
Yeah.
You know, if this is in front of a whole group of people, it's a different conversation.
For sure. For sure. I would never. I mean, I haven't told anybody that I was a bad student. Honestly, I kind of feel like I can do it now because I'm kind of a little bit successful.
I would say so.
Right? I've managed to get this far.
I mean, but also, like, you know, at the time when I look back on this, I used to joke about it with my family, like, your high school grades get you they're going to get you into university, but like, really, high school grades don't matter. They,
They don't. But I've told my children, I realize your marks in that first degree really matter.
yes.
You probably know. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The degree, yeah. If you're going to continue to
Yeah.
pursue something, you want to
Yeah.
go for an MBA,
Yeah.
yes, you need the marks.
Yeah.
High school is just the gateway to that stage.
Yeah, for sure.
So you could be a B student, whatever. Big deal. So you go through the next 3 years of school to finish off your 8 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at that point, did you know, like, you wanted oh, actually, before I even ask that next question,
Mm-hmm.
co-op. Was there co-op?
No.
There was.
No, there wasn't any.
Okay.
I did manage to get one summer job, I think. Maybe I did it for 2 years in a row at an architecture office in Winnipeg.
Okay.
And that was also a really good experience.
What were you doing at the office?
It was a bit of a problem in the early years of my education. I could draw well, and I kind of could get the design issues pretty quickly. So I was given a fair bit of responsibility in the very, very early stages of a project.
Yeah.
In fact, it kind of blew my mind that there were all these older people, and I was doing they were asking me to design, like do the sort of preliminary design of things. Anyway, I had a couple of good summers in Winnipeg. And then obviously I graduated and there was a question about where to go. And many of my colleagues at school went to Western Canada. There was a lot of work in Alberta at the time,
Mm-hmm.
even some work in Vancouver. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not entirely sure why. I just thought Toronto would be more interesting. And honestly, I think I'd only been to Toronto once.
Hmm.
So I wanted, I think I recognized I wanted to go somewhere that was more of a city than what you would find as a typical city in Western Canada.
Okay.
And Toronto was kind of, Montreal would have been super interesting, but being the bad student I was, I had no French. So Toronto it was. Yeah. So I came here. And then again, I was sort of like kind of intimidated. It seemed like a really big city at the time when I
Right.
came.
Well, and at the time, yeah, we would have probably been like a population of like 3 or 4 million,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. No, this would be like an 81 when I came. Yeah. So much smaller. Yeah.
So what did that look like when you arrived? You arrived to Toronto. Did you have a job?
No, I had a couple of interviews.
Okay.
I was interviewed at Webb's Rafa, which is, I think, well, it still exists. It's kind of reincarnated itself a few times. And an interview at Jack Diamond's office that had been previously arranged by my history professor in Manitoba.
I have a question to ask about this.
Mm-hmm.
So you moved to Toronto and you had your Norwegian parents,
Mm-hmm.
and were they okay with you just kind of packing up and moving to Toronto, or were they supportive of that, or were they hesitant?
My Norwegian grandmother was alive at the time,
Okay.
and she felt that it was kind of a sellout moving east.
Huh.
Right? I mean, they were completely fine that I was leaving. My sister, I think, yeah, I mean, it was fine that I was leaving the city. They were okay. But there was, Western Canada, when I was younger, had sort of felt that Central Canada and Toronto, Ontario were kind of sucked up all the money and, were kind of selling out, moved to the big cities, right? Yeah. Right.
So were you like, because I mean that could really play an impact on the way that you feel when you're going there, is like, I have to now prove myself, and at the same time, like, am I going to be ostracized from my family?
Yeah. No, my family was fine.
Okay.
They were completely fine about my grandmother made a few snide comments, but that was really about it. I think my parents were in awe that I'd managed to get myself together enough to do this. So it was all good. they were like, "Oh my God, so maybe she's not, no,
We're not gonna have to support her.
kinda, kind of in awe, I think, like, at step after step, she's doing this now. I do think they were sort of surprised.
Okay.
And when I came here, it was kinda cool. Again, it was big city. I felt like I fit in here a bit more. 'Cause I'm kind of a darky, like, sort of dark-skinned. People in the on the prairies, everybody's sort of British or Ukrainian or Eastern European, and I was always asking, for explanations about what I looked like, but there were more people here that looked like me, and I felt kinda comfortable. I sorta like that,
Right.
about being here, and, even more so now you would find it, right? Because it's so much more varied.
Diverse, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I grew up in a really sort of white, sort of European, city and
Mhm.
growing up, so it was kinda nice being here, and, I liked physically, I felt it was good. I took the job at I remember being offered it was Paul Simon, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, at Jack Diamond's, offering me a job for $16,000 a year, and I said, "Oh, did you know that Webb Zarafa offered me something like 22 or something?" And he said, "What do you want the job or not?" So, I mean, there was always this kind of feeling, being a design firm that they were better than the others, which is, I'm gonna say, you can see it in sort of how other, even architectural critics view the sort of the kind of corporate architectural firm as opposed to the design firm.
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, okay, no, of course, I'll work for less."
Please.
I never give it a second thought, and I never did really. It was all fine. It's not very much money though, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, $16,000 a year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It just, as a reference, I mean, that would probably be something like nowadays, probably what, like 35 to $40,000 a
Probably,
somewhere.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't even think I mean, we wouldn't pay a recent grad that low,
No, I know that, but
it would be like that.
it would be
It
below the
way
starting
well
wage
below.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So you take that job and can you remember, and I know this is going to be an obscure memory. Do you remember what it was like walking through the doors on the first day?
I was a little bit terrifying, like, when you again, sort of very extremely self-conscious. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to, perform because the firm, had a pretty good
Yeah.
reputation, right?
Yeah.
But it eventually became pretty comfortable. There were a number of recent grads from Waterloo when I joined, and they were all, really quite friendly and inclusive. So it went pretty well. So, some of the people that I was working with at that time, do you know MGMA? Do you know that firm?
Yeah, of course.
Victor's Young Collins, who's kind of semi-retired now, was one of my colleagues then. Mark Sterling, Sandy McKee, so people that I've kind of kept in touch with over
Mhm.
the years. So it was interesting to be with people that had, graduated from other school. They were all co-op
Right.
students, right? So they were, I think, technically more proficient than I was for sure. Um, but yeah, I loved it. I loved every second of it. I just felt like I died and gone to heaven. It was amazing.
And what did some of the first projects look like? Do you remember what you were working on?
Yeah, I worked on a little city hall in Bowmanville.
Okay.
I worked on the central YMCA building, which is, I don't know if you know, I mean, it's pretty old now. It was constructed in the 80s.
Yeah.
Variety of things. Again, sort of kept in sort of the design mode, not well, no, I guess I got a bit of a range of experience because I did work on the central Y, I did, work on the technical drawings, the construction documents for that. But it was when we used to work on drafting boards. I don't know if you've even seen one. There are these enormous boards.
Yep.
They were relatively sophisticated ones at Diamond's office where we had the elbow and the movable,
Yep. 'Cause
um
you could tilt it up,
yeah,
down,
yeah,
pivot.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember actually working on the same table towards the end of the phase of the construction documents with Victor Young-Collins. He was working on one side of the drawing and I work on the other, like with straight edge, and I don't know. Anyway, it was crazy times. And, I can't even explain to people at the office now what it is to draw on Mylar and to use rapidograph ink pens and Leroy texting, and it's like just crazy,
So for anyone listening to this right now that is currently in school or
Yeah.
as a junior or an intern or whatever you are, you have to appreciate the fact
Yeah. That's
that
great.
what you are currently working with is way easier what it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Mhm. We used to, when we tried to kind of determine how long it would take to do a project, we would base it on number of weeks per sheet. So if you were drawing the site plan or the second floor plan or the building sections, we would usually use the metric of 3 weeks per sheet as a way of determining how long it would take to do a set of working drawings.
And how many sheets would go into
How
a
many
project?
sheets? Like on a project like the Central Y, it would be probably, 60 to 70 sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just do the math on
Yeah.
that.
You do the math and figure out how many people you need to have working on it.
Right.
Yeah. Super crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
And that also meant like how many projects could you take on realistically at the time,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, well, yeah. I mean, it's always been an issue. I mean, when I was at Diamonds, which was it called Diamonds? I guess, I don't know what we used to call it then.
Yeah.
Work was still scarce. Like for Jack to get that Central Y project was
Big deal.
a really big deal. So, yeah,
feel like
because it was a young firm.
Even the Bowmanville City Hall is
Yeah.
a big deal,
Yeah,
right?
very big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so and how long were you at Diamonds?
I was there from, I think, 81 to about 87.
Okay.
And then I was approached by a colleague that I've been working with there to join him in a new office that potentially, I'd have more control and potentially sort of some ownership. I did well at Diamond's office too. I advanced to a kind of an associate position in a relatively short time. Just
Okay.
sort of, I think, testament to how much I like to work and how hard I worked and how much I enjoyed it. Couldn't tear me away.
That was the first time you said that you like to work hard. What?
Yeah.
Before we started this recording, Pat was telling me about me.
Yeah. No, I can recognize, yeah, I can see the signs. Anyway, so then I left and I worked in a firm that was, again, even newer, like younger and, less of a portfolio than Jack Diamond's office. And it was at a time in the late 80s where there were a lot of programs it seems like Ontario has been in a constant housing crisis ever since I've been an architect. So just so you know, it's been going on for a long time. And that was
More than a year or two.
yeah, late 80s. And at that point, the housing programs were assisted directly by the province.
Okay.
So we built a relatively new practice, and this is when you were talking about Jana Levitt earlier. She did the same thing. So, in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of young firms got their beginnings through the ability to get do construction projects for used to call it at that time assisted housing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we did that. I did that for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And actually became a partner in that practice. And then
So it was called what?
it was called Van Nostrand, Hanson, de Castry.
Okay.
And it was originally Garwood Jones Van Nostrand. And then the Garwood Jones, who was a Hamilton architect, retired. And John Van Nostrand is still around.
Okay.
He's still in practice with a firm called SVN, Sinclair Van Nostrand. And then myself, and then my colleague that had brought me over to join that firm, Adrian de Castry, who sadly passed away in 2005, 2003, somewhere around there. And that was also a really great time for me for work. Of course, I'm getting a little bit older, had few other relationships and ended up, I think, actually single at the end of that tenure of that practice with 2 children. And then in the 90s, you would be too young to remember this, but it's when interest rates went completely through the roof.
18%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that,
I remember.
yeah, and that,
I talked about this with my dad. I
yeah,
remember.
destroyed the construction industry, like just destroyed it.
Yeah.
I know there were residential, I mean, there was some condominiums being built at the time, and there were firms that just, you know, laid everybody off. Like,
Yeah.
it was just, there was no work. Fortunately for us, we managed a few years longer because all of our financing was coming through the provincial government for some of this assisted housing.
Right.
But really by the mid-90s, there was really very little work. I mean, you're probably aware too that there was a whole decade of architects that graduated at that time that never were able to find jobs, that all kind of left and
There were
did
different fields.
different fields.
Left
Yeah.
the degree behind, left the passion behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many people. So, yeah, I kinda needed to make money because I had children, and,
That's a shocker.
yeah. Just other ones.
So okay, so tell me, like, did you have this I'm gonna try to like, did you want to start your own practice, or was it a byproduct of the necessity to do it? Or was it maybe a combination of the two? Like, what was the because I when I talk with so many people about this, what I find to be such an interesting element of it is that most people start it while they're moonlighting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what you've just described is like you didn't actually have the opportunity to moonlight because things just changed so drastically.
Things changed drastically, and I mean, I didn't have there was there's never been another income, particularly even since, and I for me, it would have been, well, I was a partner in a firm, but the thing is, I never had to get the work.
Right.
I was always the kind of studio person. I was the one that was kind of directing the design.
Yep.
I was, very comfortable. I mean, you're right about being introverted, very comfortable in studio, working with, my colleagues in studio. Always a little bit nervous with clients, except for when I was making presented, a project that I knew really well or that I was working on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just not something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be in a partnership where I had some control,
Right.
for sure, but did I wanna
On the
be.
back end, not on the
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I went back to diamonds for a while,
Okay.
knowing that they were gonna be restructuring, and that just went too slowly and didn't really work out, and then in the meantime, the economy got better, and my old partners asked me back to a firm called Architects Alliance. I went there for a while, and that was kind of good but then it wasn't good, and then after it wasn't good, then I had to make up my mind whether I was going to look for another sort of situation where I would be kind of a design partner or go it alone. So, at that point, I did decide to go it alone.
Yeah.
Children were a little bit older, kinda could see my way through to doing it financially,
Yeah.
but it was still like.
And also because they were older, you could assume the risk a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So, but still, like, I was sick to my stomach with fear.
You know what Pat's describing here, taking a risk and building something strong from the ground up, reminds me of a lot what we can count on from our partners at Rockwork Steel. Every project we build starts with structure. And whether it's beams, posts, lintels, or custom steel assemblies, Rockwork has been our go-to for years. Their team handles everything: fabrication, shop drawings, coordination, delivery, and installation. Even service after install, if it's ever needed. What makes them invaluable to us is the way they collaborate. Brett and his team don't just drop steel on site, they're part of the process. They work directly with us on ordering, timing, delivery, and shop drawings with our architects and structural engineer partners, coordinating at a high level to keep our schedule intact. It's the same principle Pat and I touch on throughout this conversation. When the structure is right, everything else has the chance to work. That's why we trust Rockwork Steel, because solid design deserves a solid foundation. If you want to learn more, email me, Jonathan, Jonathan, @waldenhomes.ca. All right, let's get back to Pat. And this moment where she's talking about what it takes to build something steady when everything feels uncertain.
I couldn't. Actually, I was about to say it. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, no, I was.
Is that it?
Yeah, no, and there was not one entrepreneur in my entire family, right? So this is
Oh,
like
so you
just
broke your parents at this point
yeah,
through the roof.
yeah. Well, they're kind of like on their way in a way, but yeah, I don't think I honestly don't think I was honest with them because I think if I had told them
Yeah,
and sort of asked them to, assess the risks and what I would do, they'd say, "Go get a job." Yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
Anyway,
what? Okay, so now, when you started the practice, was it called gh3 when you started it?
yeah.
Why?
I had another partner. I had a partner that I have a partner. I have a couple partners now, but
Yeah.
I had a partner at the time who was a landscape architect, and her surname was Gerard, and I was a Hanson, and then I mean, it's so random and stupid shit. There was a cool firm called West 8. We thought we should have a generic name, but it would only be really actually interesting if it had a number. So I'm just showing you how completely shallow and ridiculous the whole thing is. So we used the
How
number
is that
3.
ridiculous? Come on, no, come on.
It is completely. Anyway, so we used the number 3 because 3 is actually, kind of a pretty good shape.
Yeah,
And then we could rationalize it with, landscape, urbanism, and architecture. It's all, it's a combination of rationalizing and post-rationalizing and, silliness.
not. I like the self-justification.
Yeah.
Come on. Now that you say it, it makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's fine. And I'm not sure that I like the name, but I do ask people, in the office and others, and I said, "What do you think about the name?" And they say, "Oh, they really like it."
Yeah.
So I can't say that I do, but
Okay. Well, I mean, it's working,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So okay, so you started the practice. What was the year?
I think 2005.
Okay.
Yeah. So honestly, it's 20 years. Time goes fast.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So uh,
So I'll tell you about the beginning.
I'm gonna ask that question, but the question of before the whole beginning is, do you remember what it felt like when you were submitting your documentation to the OAA with the name and saying, like, we're doing this? I know you gotta draw back on that a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think it was the moment of doing the documentation.
Okay.
It was, it was the day of not going into an office
Right.
because we started it at my house.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just sort of projecting ahead financially and
How long can we carry this?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Before
Mhm.
we have to try to
Yeah.
find something and bring in some revenue.
Yeah, like, how can how long am I gonna give myself before I really have to figure this out?
Right. So now let's go there. So what did it look like? First, you're either trying to hopefully acquire something where you don't have to go into an RFP process, right? Because that will hopefully now line up the business.
I mean, very fortunately, and maybe this made the transition a little easier for me, I had been approached probably about the last 6 months after I was leaving Architects Alliance by a client who wanted a boathouse. And so, the first Governor General that we won, that glass building on Stony Lake, that I'd already started working on that.
Oh,
So I had that. And, it wasn't a fantastic fee, but it was,
mm,
gave me what we needed and it was enough to, so it was good.
keep you going.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was good. And then I'd also been approached to do a house, and it's a house on our website still. We still publish it, called, I don't know if it's called the Russell Hill House or not. But so I had 2 residential projects that helped. And then my business partner, she'd had a bit of a landscape practice, so she had some smaller landscape projects that she could bring. So, it was a scramble. And then we even actually got a couple of projects through an old client. Something it was for Humber College. They were starting a new campus in Orangeville, but that fell apart, and they pulled anyway. The Humber College pulled out of their project in Orangeville, but
Yeah.
it looked like it was kind of really going well for a while. We even had a project with the Smithsonian, which is very random. I won't go into the details how we got it, and then that fell apart too. But But so really for the first couple of years, we kind of managed, even hired a couple of people. And where we worked was I had just finished renovating a house. I've always been a house renovator and made a little bit of money that way.
Yep.
So I just finished the renovation I bought a large house and I'd severed it, sold half of it, and we had just finished the house that we moved into, and I moved with a big, not unlike your house, like a big open space.
Yeah.
And I made that my office, and I had about 5 or 6 employees. My children, what I put them through, it's really kind of not nice to walk down into, and
Made them resilient.
yeah, things that they will never ever do in their own adult life, right? Anyway,
They'll have the opportunity to maybe be on a podcast one day and talk about what it's like.
exactly. Anyway, it was good. It all worked out pretty well, and then I, managed to pull together some funds with sort of some family money, including my sons, because their grandparents had passed, to purchase a building on Ossington, which is where we are right now, which is the office moved there in 2009.
Okay.
So, but then when you talk about RFP, so we're still kind of scrabbling between smaller residential projects, smaller landscape. And then there was the kind of, in 2009, there was kind of a real downturn in the economy, right?
Of course.
So there was all of this infrastructure funding. My sister always talks about this infrastructure funding in late in 2009 or so. All of these RFPs came out. So if you look at my promotion folder for 2009 and part of 2010, I think there's probably about 30 proposals that we responded to.
Wow.
And largely because, I'd always been the kind of design hag in the studio and never been out in front with clients and stuff. It was very difficult. I didn't really have a reputation certainly with even some of our institutional clients.
Right.
We submitted, I think, 30 proposals and we got an interview for one.
Wow. So, okay.
So that's,
Let's
Yeah.
just deconstruct that for 1 minute. Again, you're listening to this and you don't understand what that would mean. That means that you have probably put forth well over a month's worth of time cumulatively
yeah,
into proposals that you're not getting paid for.
Yeah.
To have one interview.
Yeah.
And that could be soul crushing.
yeah, for sure. No, it could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Like for the wrong person,
Yeah.
they say, okay, I don't know if I could do that type of work.
Yeah. But, at the same time, we're just, the boathouse is being constructed, the other little house is being constructed, and, the feedback from seeing something realized is good. I can still sort of manage to pay the bills, and there's always tomorrow. So, I'm kind of an optimist.
And so how did it go with that one?
Which one?
The one that you were able to get the interview for?
We didn't get it.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't get any of them. Yeah. But, around the same time, towards the same time, I had a colleague who was working for Waterfront Toronto. They were looking for Waterfront Toronto don't normally do their buildings. They hire landscape architects and really rely on developers for any of their built work. But some of their infrastructure projects, they will take them in-house.
Okay.
So they were looking for an architect to team with an engineering firm on a stormwater quality facility.
Yeah.
And she reached out to me and said, would you like to put in a proposal for this? It was being very low key because I think they assumed nobody would really want to work on it. So I said, yes, for sure. I put in actually a relatively low fee to get the work. We did get the work. And that building, while it took probably a decade to actually get it constructed because it had a few different lives, given, dealing with, funding issues, is also one of our more well-known projects. That's the stormwater facility down on Cherry Street, that faceted cast-in-place building.
Yeah.
So, there's just little things like that happen, that there are opportunities. We were talking about that earlier.
I was waiting
right?
for you to say
Yeah.
it was luck.
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah.
reference that other conversation.
Kind of, right?
Not luck.
Yeah. And So I think that's kind of the early history of the practice. It's really the kind of the way that we still operate it today is we look for projects where we think there's an opportunity and where there's a client that might be open-minded enough to, obviously not spend more money, but more open-minded about the kind of the importance of the project and what it means to, you know,
Can you
the city.
can you tell me a little bit about the public pool project?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Because I found that to be a really interesting
mhm.
project. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you would have had to have learned a lot,
Yeah, we did.
research.
Yeah, we did, we did. That's in Edmonton, and
Yeah.
that project we got that project as a result of Edmonton running a competition for park pavilions, of which we were successful enough to, win 2 of those pavilions,
Mhm.
and then the pool came out of that, and so there's a city architect department there, and they're kind of more open-minded about their procurement process, I think partly because we had built some creds up from the pavilions that were, well received.
If you haven't, by the way, sorry to cut you off. Listener, if you have not yet seen any of this work, whether or not this is what we're going to promote on social media or not, we'll determine later on. But I highly recommend going and looking at these because these pavilions are beautiful. This pool is also really cool. So, yeah, that said, go ahead. Sorry for
Thank you,
that.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, so anyway, we got the pool without really having the kind of the right expertise for it, but what it does speak to, and I've spoken to this a number of times, a procurement model run by a city that is open enough that will allow for sort of young talent and, the ability to sort of demonstrate your abilities other than just what your past portfolio is. So it's kind of huge. I think it's hugely important to, allowing, younger talent and anyway. So we got the project. We did it was originally anyway, we got the project, we did it. The first version of it went extremely over budget. And if anybody that knows Alberta well enough, partly because of the oil sector, it's kind of a boom bust economy. So, you know, one year the construction prices can go through the roof. 2 years later, they can bottom out. So
Right.
we just hit the market on that at a time with our first proposal that the project nearly failed. So, desperate to keep the project alive, we kind of reimagined it because the first project had some curves in it. It was really more about biophilic shaping, and we were thinking of molecules. So it had a, kind of a slightly, and the naturalness of the pool. We had kind of rendered that ideally sort of in a more organic way with shapes, and those all, of course, all cost money. So we kind of regrouped and had a kind of a rethink about that the pool building could be an exterior build it would be seasonal, and it would think about it as a much more materials-based concept that would be very inexpensive, so hence all the gabion and all the rock.
Listening to Pat talk about the natural swimming pool in Edmonton, how her team completely rethought the design to make it more sustainable, materials based, and beautifully restrained, reminds me so much of what our partners at Aquanta Pools are doing here. Aquanta specializes in biodesign natural pools, an incredible system developed in Italy that transforms the traditional idea of a pool. Instead of concrete shells or harsh chemicals, these are sculpted, lagoon style pools made with natural filtration, sand, and stone finishes, in forms that blend seamlessly into the landscape. Just like Pat's project, it's a total rethinking of what's possible when design and engineering meet environmental sensitivity. And Aquanta's team handles everything locally, from design and excavation to installation, waterproofing, long-term maintenance. They bring the same precision and passion that you'd expect from an architect-led project, only now it's in your backyard. Whether you're envisioning something sculptural or serene, Aquanta Pools delivers that kind of innovation, craftsmanship, and quality that we love seeing in projects like Pat's. If you want to learn more, email me at Jonathan, Jonathan, at waldenhomes.ca, and I'll connect you with Yuri and his fantastic team. All right, let's get back to Pat, because this next part dives right into how constraints and creativity can produce something truly extraordinary.
and the project is completely orthogonal and regular. Like there's, it's very rigorous in a kind of very straightforward way, and we could manage to get it on budget. So, like, I don't think the first design would nearly have been nearly as interesting.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting when you get really challenged and have to reach deep down for a solution.
Right.
Sometimes it can be a far better, more sophisticated one.
No, but you don't feel it at the time. At the time,
Yeah.
you're like, you're trying to claw your way out of a hole.
Yeah, exactly. Really scrambling.
Where's the light?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was actually, I reached out to a few different people and I got because I wanted to know if anyone have a question that they would want to ask
Mm.
to you. And so I spoke with Maggie Bennetson.
Mm.
And Maggie wanted to know, based on the portfolio of work that you have and how well executed most of, if not all of your projects are, how are you able to, through the course of construction, get the constructors, yeah, that's us in many ways, to really kind of fall in line with what the design intent is and not lose it over the course of the project?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's through a really good set of drawings.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the work, the ambition is always kind of bracketed. Like we don't expect too much from each project. So each project has one or two really key details that you got to get right. Not too many materials.
Okay.
So one or two sophisticated details that kind of carry the vocabulary, the larger architectural vocabulary is key. A good set of drawings that are constantly sort of making sure that information is clear in the set.
Mm-hmm.
We, I think, in more recent years, include more three-dimensional imagery in our sets,
Yep.
so contractors can sort of visualize it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about being a contractor and getting this sort of two-dimensional sets of drawings. Like, how do you put it? It's hard to visualize it. So we do a fair bit of that, and then we're really vigilant. We spend a lot of time on site, and we kind of talk things through. So I think we are experienced enough that we can work with contractors and help them to anticipate where there's going to be challenges. So one of the projects that we're constructing right now has got barrel vaults, and we know that we've got like just inches to spare to thread through all the infrastructure. We kind of work that through with them, right from the beginning. Like we're always sort of monitoring that and getting them to sort of do mock-ups to show us how they're gonna be able to execute it.
Right.
So I don't think it's not rocket science,
and
but
well, it's also, there's no one element of it. It's
yeah, it's a process.
Yeah.
It's just being, really vigilant through the whole process, for sure.
and staying heavily involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would, and I say that because like that's largely when we're building with
Yeah, right. Right.
we're asking for site visits all the time.
Yeah.
Send out videos like, how do you want this?
Yeah, exactly. Explain it to me. What is
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for
let's
sure.
go figure it out together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what real collaboration's about.
Yeah.
So where do you see your practice going from where you were to where you are to where you want to go? Are there certain projects that you've not yet been able to take on that you want? Or are there regions that you haven't yet been able to design for that you'd like to design for? What does that look like? Is there material that you haven't yet been able to play with that you'd like to?
Yeah. Well, I think about, you know, um, my fellow colleagues, I have a partner, Raymond Chow, our principal, and then a couple of, two other, principals, in the office, John McKenna and Joel, and then, a group of other people that will carry on once I'm sort of done, which I'm not sure when that's gonna be.
Yeah.
So I kinda think about that more than anything, about making sure that the portfolio stays diverse so that they're, inheriting something, that they can work with,
Yeah.
right? And that is a diverse portfolio, which includes, infrastructure, multi-residential. We've been trying to pick up the landscape sector a little bit more. I'm certainly Elise Shelley from, with the director at the University of Toronto, Daniel's landscape department is a huge part of that. But yeah, sort of really trying to keep and actually build into other sectors even. Of course, what architect wouldn't like to do is sort of an art gallery, a museum or whatever, but that's, I'm a realist. I get a lot back from infrastructure buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that it's not that there's a real type. I'm actually quite happy, as I was explaining to someone a few years ago, about sort of nibbling around the fringes and finding work there that I can make interesting. It doesn't have to be the most important project, cultural project. But it would be interesting, I think, to, do something that was, a little bit more public facing
Okay.
than the small pavilions that we do, which are pretty public facing, but still, kind of
You'd have
simpler scale. Yeah. So, yeah, that would be. But honestly, I'm happy to design anything. Kind of happy if the client is right, doesn't have to be a huge budget. Pretty happy to think about anything.
Mm-hmm. Is there a project that you've completed or that you have under construction now that you felt has embodied like what you would call like your life's work, or was there a specific element of a certain project that has really resonated with you? You kind of hold dear.
I really do feel good about the natural swimming pool. In that it is a kind of that it is very conceptual without being with an architecture that is so much like don't look at me. Like it is so restrained. And it's just well executed.
Yeah.
With one very clear idea that resonates on a number of levels.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really good about that project. Other projects, we're like every other architecture firm. We look at what other architects are doing and, everybody gets influenced by somebody else. But that project is just not influenced by anything that isn't just
standalone.
Yeah. So I kind of that one, I do feel like, if I was to look back, it would be that was a good result.
All right. So just some of the last few questions in terms of what you'd like to fulfill your time with when you are not working. What does that look like nowadays? What do you like to do? You were an outdoors person before and into sports. Has that maintained itself over the years?
Not really. I mean, I do a lot of exercise.
Yeah.
And I work out and I run and
Are you a
I
distance
walk.
runner or are you a short distance runner?
I am a short distance runner every morning of every
Every
day.
morning.
Yeah.
How far do you run?
I run for about 30 minutes.
So the distance doesn't matter, it's just time.
Yeah, just time. Well, I have the same route. I'm a
Okay.
creature of habit.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly the same route. If I
Every
change my route, I get tired.
Every morning.
Absolutely every morning since I've been about 30. I just don't feel good if I'm not
Yeah.
outside within minutes of waking up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so you'll run on an empty stomach.
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
When I was running, I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. No, I mean, I pee, brush my teeth, and I'm straight, that's it.
Yeah. 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 The basics.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good.
Hey, well, because you're starting off.
It's my, I've had many bad habits, but it's been my only good habit that I've sustained for many years.
Okay. And other things, travel or vacationing or.
What do I do for fun? I have no fun.
That's not true. Well, you like what you do.
Yeah, I like what I do. No, I have been traveling more. And yeah, so I do like to travel. And I have family in Mexico, so we go there a lot and recently been going to Europe quite a bit more than I used to. My most favorite new activity is going to a cold plunge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I've been doing that a lot, which I like.
How many minutes can you last?
I'll go in for 2 minutes. I could probably go longer, but this is the way I run. I think that's good enough. I could go farther, but this is enough.
I remember I had one run. It's actually funny. I remember I talked to Vanessa Fong right after I had finished this run because she also runs. She was running distance. and she runs all the time. And I had finished this run. Is up in my cottage in Muskoka. Made around like it was like not crazy. It was around like I think it was like 14 and a half K,
That's a lot.
something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like I could just keep going right now. I
Right.
looked down at my watch. It's like I've been gone for a while. I feel like I need to get back to my. And the second I thought of my family, I'm like, this run's over.
Yeah, this is good. This was good. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm actually pretty easy on myself when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And of course, my running is not as good as it used to be. I feel like I'm kind of half the time just dragging my body across the street, but it's okay. I still do it.
But 7 days a week.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I occasionally miss one day, but
Okay.
not rarely.
Right.
Rarely. Yeah.
That's it's a lot. Running is if
It's good. It keeps me happy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you listen to music or anything or
No.
nothing?
No, I'm pretty good with silence.
You
No
focus on breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Maybe I'm breathing.
Yeah. All right. Pat, it's been such a pleasure. Honestly.
Okay, good.
I'm glad that you came around to it and we said yes and that we were able to do this because I know that you've had a strong impact on a lot of people, and I know that there have been a couple people that have asked to have you on this because they really admire what you do and your work, and so I appreciate you becoming an extrovert for an hour.
Yeah, I'm gonna regret it. I know for sure. But anyway, it's okay.
No, you won't.
I won't listen, and I'll just.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. No, it was a pleasure. You made it easy.